New study out from the Urban Institute based on CDC numbers, and they tried to find out exactly how income level affects longevity. And the answer is a lot. Quote, the study divides Americans into 5 income groups and finds that each income group is healthier than the one below it and sicker than the one above it. And that outcome is remarkably consistent in almost every category of ailment, from heart disease to arthritis to kidney disease to strokes. Prevalence drops almost in lockstep as income rises. There are dozens of reasons why every bit of extra wealth and income improves health and lifespan. Access to better health care is the most obvious. Richer people also benefit from better living conditions generally. They say the poor are also far more likely to be stressed, worried, sad, and angry than the rich. And a separate CDC study last week found that the higher you are on the income ladder, the less likely you are to be sleep deprived. So it turns out mo money, mo problems is not necessarily true. Sometimes it's mo money, you can relax a little bit. It's always funny when people act like, there's no link whatsoever between money and happiness. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not the end-all, be-all for sure. There are plenty of miserable, mega-rich people. There's no question about that. But it is a spectrum, and there is something to the idea that you can relax and be more at ease when you don't have to worry about paying your fucking bills every month. And that appears to be just common sense. And there was one study from a while back that found that up to $75,000 a year, like if you made $0 a year up to $75,000 a year, the more you go up in income in that scale, the happier you are. And you peak out at $75,000 a year. But the study also found that the difference between somebody that makes $75,000 a year and $120,000 a year, there is no difference in happiness solely based off the money between those two people. And there's also no difference in happiness between the person who makes $75,000 a year and the person who makes $500,000 a year or $1 million a year. And they say that the reason behind it is when you hit that $75,000 range, that's like the sweet spot where you could basically afford, a good lifestyle anywhere. So it's like, you're going to be happy, you're going to be able to take care of your bills, and then anything over that is just, that's not going to increase, that's not going to add to your happiness just solely based on the money. But that does show you that, if you make $20,000 a year, you're going to be less happy than somebody who makes $75,000 a year, somebody that even makes $50,000 a year, because then you're really struggling to get by. So that was a separate study, and that shows you something about how money affects happiness. But this one, look, this is even more stark, and this is even more clear, because what they're saying is there's a direct health issue. The less money you make, the worse off you are. And a lot of stuff goes into that, but let's also not forget that we've covered stories in the past, we've covered studies in the past, which found that lower income areas and majority minority areas are places that have worse air quality. And that's oftentimes because you get approval for different companies that pollute to set up shop in the majority minority areas and in poor areas. And of course that happens because, society by and large thinks, fuck them. What are we going to do? We're not going to put, a coal plant in the same place where the Kochs live. We're not going to put a gross oil refinery thing or some sort of fracking well in a town where a big oil CEO lives. So fuck them. Put it in the low-income area, and stuff like that directly affects health. Not having the money to get adequate medical care, that affects health. The food you eat, the poorer you are, the more likely you are to have to go and eat, a lot of meals at a fast food place, for example, or you have to go to the convenience store, which has mostly junk food, to get your food on a daily basis. That affects your health in the long run. So what we're seeing here is a systemic problem. We're seeing a situation where there's certain segments of the population that society just does not give a fuck about. And that's being borne out through the data here. Now, how do we address it? Well, we address it the same way that we address all the other social ills that we talk about on the show all the time. We need to set up a system where there's a healthy social safety net, where the floor is not low enough where people are going to die young and have no economic opportunity and be poor and be miserable. We need to set up a system where you have universal education, you have universal health care, you have a society that doesn't say, fuck off, we don't care about you when the going gets tough. Now, I'm not asking for, equality of outcome. All I'm asking for is equality of opportunity. And I think that if you have basic government functions for the important areas, that you'll then set up a system where you don't need to worry as much about people who are poor. They're definitely going to die younger, and the data proves it. I mean, compare a study like this to, studies coming out of the Scandinavian region, for example, who we often talk about on the show because they do such a fantastic job in so many areas. And what you'll find is that, very simply put, those societies are more equal from an economic perspective, and people, by and large, are happier and healthier, and they have more time to, explore their passions and their leisure, and they get more time off from work, and it's just a different lifestyle, and all they had to do to get a better lifestyle was embrace some very basic government functions, which is, okay, let's have universal health care, let's have universal education, let's have a strong social safety net, let's have a good infrastructure set up, let's give people at least 6 weeks paid vacation per year. And then lo and behold, everybody's happier and healthier. So I think that it's time for us to try something out like that. Not just, hey, let's have a better system that pays people more money when they're at the bottom of the ladder, but also let's have a better healthcare system which gives everybody coverage. Obamacare is a step in the right direction, but you haven't gone all the way there to single payer. That's what we need, is single payer. So I think the takeaway from this study and similar studies is we got to stop leaving behind, giant segments, giant portions of society because they don't make that much money. That's not a reasonable basis or a rational basis to have a system set up where they can only eat shitty food and they can only go to shitty schools and they only have shitty hospitals or no health insurance or health care at all. It's not an excuse anymore, okay? It's 2015. We have the ability to spend money in areas where we can fix these problems. It just takes the will to do it. We need to stop spending all of our money on corporate welfare and the military and start directing some funds into downtrodden areas and societies.